welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on my video and spending part of your day with me. I so appreciate you being here. You have seen this video probably circling on your subscription feed, and I have been wanting to do this a lot sooner than I actually am sitting down and doing this, but I figured it will be fun. Sit down, let's chill, let's pause on reality. Maybe, I don't fucking know. Or, you know, you could put this on while folding laundry or cooking or whatever have you. Grab a drink, grab a snack. I am on an empty stomach drinking caffeine, so this is gonna end up really well for me. We are going to go ahead and do tier ranking. This is every book I read in 2024. I ended up reading 111 books, which is crazy. Pretty impressed. So we have 111 books to talk about. So let's do that. Okay, record. So we are going to talk about my 5 tiers. This is inspired by Sarah Caroli's tiers, but also a little bit of just basic stuff. So we are going to start with the bottom. This is red, and this is I should have DNF'd. Pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. That's what I wanted to do here. The one before that is not my fave. Probably wouldn't recommend it. Maybe recommend it to a certain group of people, not group of people, but a certain type of reader. And then we have mid, which is just middle of the road. Couldn't care less, didn't really care, really enjoyed it. I'm not sure. Okay, it's a mid book for me. This was loved. And then we have God tier. So we're gonna try to fit these books in these categories. All right, starting off pretty strong. Austenland by Shannon Hale. This one is the most recent book club book that we met and talked about. Yeah, I was not a fan of this. Not a fan at all. This person was obsessed with Jane Austen, and she wanted to live her Jane Austen Regency era love life, and I just didn't really care for it. So I'm gonna be a little harsh, and I am going to say I should have DNF'd. I did not care for this at all, actually. It was just so, I didn't really like the writing. I didn't really care for this book. I probably would not have read it if it wasn't picked for book club, okay? Then we're going to another book. This is His Desert Rose. I read this to fulfill a Sarah Crowley seasonal challenge prompt. That was a book published in the year I was born. This was crazy. I should have DNF'd as well. I struggled to get through this. It's only like a 200 and something page book, but it took me forever to read it because I simply couldn't really understand what's happening. It almost felt like I should have read a prequel to their story. Lovely Bones, I enjoyed this, but I'm gonna say it was mid, okay? I think it is a great story. I really enjoyed it, but I have other books that I loved and are God tiers, so we're just gonna put it in the mid, okay? Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This one was a pleasant surprise. I really, really enjoyed this one. I loved the writing. I was really scared. I thought this was gonna be an epic fantasy. I thought it was just the way the book cover looks. I know I judged a book by its cover, I'm so sorry, but just the way it looked kind of intimidated me a lot. It felt like a classic fantasy, but easy to read. Yes, I really enjoyed this, and I would recommend Red Rising. Okay, fine. It wasn't my fave, and I'm so sorry about that. I can understand the hype, but I did not really care for it. It wasn't my favorite, and I'm probably not gonna continue the series. Please convince me in the comments down below to read this series, because I know this is a really well-loved series, but for me, I just wasn't a big fan. Okay, The Nightingale, God tier. Are you, like, hello? Do I need to say anything more? If you have not read a Kristen Hanna book because they're intimidating, bestie, they are intimidating. They will break your heart, put it back together, and then break a little bit more. But like the way she tells a story, the way she researches, and you can just tell she like puts her everything into each book. I literally am obsessed with her, and I want to read her backlist. I don't really know what the name of this book is. This one was mid. This was a queer book, I'm pretty sure, and it's about a boy who lost his childhood best friend, kind of like his first love, but he finds love through the loss. and that's all I'll say. I'd recommend it. I really liked the audiobook. One of Us is Lying. Should have DNF'd. This is coming across really hard. I promise you there are books I enjoyed. Was not my favorite. It felt way too YA, and the plot twist, like there was one and then that was it. Something didn't work for me, and I'm so sorry if I offended any of you. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, this might be a hot take, but I am going to say, okay, fine. I'm in between mid and loved. I love historical fiction, so that is why I'm going to put it in the loved tier and not the mid tier. I thought I was going to be obsessed with this book, and I wasn't. The plot twist got me. No one talks about it, so I'm not going to say anything. I really thought it was going to be like a 6-star read, and it wasn't, so. The Husband's a Secret. I'm just going to put not my fave. Something about this book, like, didn't really work with me, and the audiobook was interesting. I immersive read it, and I liked her writing, but I just kind of read it just to read it, and I'm going to try not to do that in 2025. Dance of Thieves, I loved this one from what I remember. That's pretty much it, because I completely forgot this book. So let me actually move it down to mid, because it is so forgettable to me, but I remember enjoying it. So take that with what you want. Love in Other Words is not my fave. Sorry. I don't know, besties. I don't know if I'm a second chance childhood friends to lovers kind of lover. This one, I was just kind of bored. I binged it in one day, but I just did not really enjoy it. The plot twist got me, but other than that, okay. Like, I get it. Maybe I need to do a reread. Maybe it was the wrong book at the wrong time. This one, Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, made me feel so dumb. Like, the way Olivia Blake's like complex writing and prose just really made me like question my comprehension, and I felt dumb, and I did not like this. I liked how Death had a perspective and kind of was the narrator, but there were so many characters, and the way the writing, it just did not work for me, and I'm really sorry. I would recommend this to people, but for me, I feel like the end result was not worth it, so I should have DNF'd it. Heartstopper, I liked it. Quick, easy read. Can't complain here. I loved this series. I feel like series got a lot of hype this year, and I enjoyed it, and I binged it. I need to watch the show. Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is the second book. Where's the first one? I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I read this immersively with the audiobook and the physical copy, so as she was like reading the mixed media, I really enjoyed that. I loved this series, so we're just going to put them there. There we go. Really recommend both of these series. Okay, then we have Lovely War. This one, unfortunately, I'm gonna put in not my fave. I really had high expectations, and I read this in a with an audiobook as well, but I think I low-key was in a slump, so I couldn't really connect or enjoy my reading experience. So this is a book I want to reread in the new year. Vow of Thieves, again, I'm gonna put in not my fave because I totally forgot Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, and so I think that affected my reading experience. It felt like this one was a lot heavy on politics, heavy on action, but it felt like a lot of words and nothing was happening until like the very end. Not my fave. Court of Frost and Starlight, I'm going to put in loved because I purposely left this for way later after I finished the series, because I've heard this is like a holiday episode with your best friends. So I wanted to do that, and I read it on before Christmas, so technically on like solstice or something, like around that when it's actually taken place, and I loved it. I loved being back with the characters. Yeah, so I loved this Zodiac Academies series, and I will just go ahead and put the second one right next to it. I don't know why, but I was so pleasantly surprised. I loved it. I felt like the writing was easy to read, it was funny, and the story was immediately gripping. I think I liked the first one more than I liked the second book, but I'm really excited to continue the series. Mexican Gothic. Okay, Yeah, I'm gonna put it, I feel like I read it the same month as all of these 3 books. I just did not like this book at all, and it was not a good nighttime read. It kind of got me like in a weird headspace, so good for Sylvia Moreno Garcia to do that, but not for me. I don't know, not the biggest fan of this book. I was disappointed, honestly. In 5 years, I'm gonna put this in mid. And I have a love-hate relationship with this author, Rebecca Serrell. I've read 2 of her other books. For Rebecca Serrell, I read these 2 audiobooks, and I guess I didn't read them. I listened to them, did not like them. I hated the ending of Expiration Dates. And When Italian Summer, there was a huge trope in there that I could not get behind. But in 5 years, it was a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed this one a lot better. I felt like I could have read a little bit more of the story because it was under 300 pages. So I would recommend this one. I wouldn't recommend these 2. A Court of Silver Flames, loved Hello. I really enjoyed A Court of Silver Flames. I know a lot of people didn't really care about Nessa's story and her point of view, but I enjoyed it. And the shit that goes on in this book is crazy. So I need the next ACOTAR book, please, Sarah J. Maas. Like, you have so many people rooting and wanting this book. Perfect Marriage, not my favorite. I enjoyed it until the twist, and then the twist kind of shook me. So I know a lot of people don't really like this book. Okay, it's a mid book. I enjoyed it. I read for the vibes. The plot, it's a attorney having to defend her husband who was found in bed with his dead mistress. And so I felt like that premise was really cool, and maybe it was a little obvious, but again, I don't read and try to predict. I just go in blind and I read for vibes, and so I felt like this was an okay book. I don't know if I'll pick up another Geneva Rose book unless you guys have a recommendation, but yeah, it was good. It was alright. I would recommend it, maybe not. None Shall Sleep. This one was mid, and I say that because I didn't love it. So I guess these tiers are really hard to categorize, but None Shall Sleep was something that I was trying to fill the void for a YA true crime series. It's like kind of a spin-off where teenagers interview people in prison. And again, I'm really surprised that this one is considered YA. I did read this after A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so I was kind of wanting that void. It was alright, and I don't know if I'll continue this series, but the audiobook was fine. It definitely was like, I remember driving and being like, oh my god, like what is gonna happen? Yeah, I would recommend it. Billy Summers, honestly, was mid. I had such high expectations for this from Stephen King. A lot of book girls loving this. It's about a assassin for hire doing one last job and everything goes wrong. And I really liked the dynamic of him finding complexities with this last job. But the ending kind of confused me a little bit, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. One Dark Window, I loved One Dark Window. This one had like a really unique magic system. I liked the subplot of romance. I read the second book somewhere, so I'm gonna put this one in to mid because I think I enjoyed. No, I agree with that. I liked the first one. The way that ends was crazy. And then there's like a whole journey in the second book. I'm glad it's a duology. Cross that off of my series I'm in the middle of. I would recommend this series. I'm pretty sure it's a young adult gothic fantasy with a subplot of romance. So definitely recommend. This next book I'm so excited to talk about. God Tier. I loved Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I think this is like my favorite book I've read by her. I have to do a reread, but absolutely loved God Tier. Cried my eyes out, like kicking and giggling my feet. Yeah, it's God Tier. I know not a lot of people like this story, but me, I loved this man. I'm blanking on his name, so we're gonna ignore it, but yeah, I loved that book. Bodyguard, I loved this at the time. While reading it, I felt like it was a good read. The audiobook was great. I liked the dynamic of her being the bodyguard. Yes, I enjoyed this. Haunting Adeline, I am going to put in loved. I am scared to say that because of just the whole premise, but I was just like really immersed, and I loved the suspense. I loved the mystery and the way this ends. Like, I am so afraid. I need to pick up the next book. This definitely made me feel some things. It is so crazy, so check trigger warnings. The Dead Romantics, I'm gonna put in mid because I enjoyed it and I was entertained, and I was really confused on how the whole love romance was going to work, but the ending I feel like made sense, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I would put this over a novel love story. Sticking with Ashley Poston, this was the first book I read by her early in the year. I loved it. I loved the discussion of grief and the journey of that, and I really loved the beautiful quotes that came out of this. Same thing with The Dead Romantics. There was a heavy discussion of grief, so check trigger warnings, but I really related to that, and the romance was nice, and the romance was nice in this one. This one, they both obviously have magical realism. A novel love story, I'm going to put in not my favorite. This one was really hard for me to get through because it felt like a book written for book lovers, but it didn't execute like that for me. Nor goes off script. We read a couple books by this author. I'm blanking on her name right now. Annabelle Monaghan. This one was good. I enjoyed it, and they're short, quick, easy reads. I forget the plot twist, but I remember it being crazy. So there's that. I read a couple other books same time next summer. I felt like this one was good. No, I didn't really like this one as much. There's kind of a trope in here that I didn't really like. So if you know, you know, you might pick up on that. And then the last book I read by her, Summer Romance. I loved summer romance. So we have one in each category. Take that with what you want. Starling House. Pleasant surprise. I loved this by Alex E. Harrow. No one has talked about this. I loved this book. I felt like it was very atmospheric. Definitely recommend it for the fall time. Pleasantly surprised for a gothic fantasy with a subplot of romance. And man, I loved the acts of service that both of these characters did for each other, and I just felt like it was a great standalone, so I would recommend. The Ballad of Never After was mid for me. I gave 5 stars to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which now I think I need to reread because I'm afraid that it's not a 5 stars after reading the rest of this series. Intermission real quick. Mr. Mance and I went apartment hunting and we found something we liked. We applied, so fingers crossed everything goes well and we will get out of downtown noises. Really excited for that. Okay, yeah, Ballad of Never After was good. I read this in one sitting in a long car ride, and yeah, The Kiss Curse was not my favorite. Kind of a letdown after reading The Ex-Hex by Aaron Sterling. I liked this book. It was a easy, cute, seasonal read, but I actually ended up unhauling this because it was really forgettable. So yeah, unfortunately. Killers of a Certain Age, I loved this book. Definitely enjoyed the character dynamics between the women and them trying to gather together and get out of what situation they were in. So I would recommend if you like a literary fiction. Light Lark, I loved Light Lark. Okay, I don't know why that went there. I loved Light Lark. This was a really pleasant surprise for me. I know some people either love it or hate it. I'm on the loved it category, and I definitely need to pick up Nightbane ASAP. Definitely. The Lost Siren, this is a crazy novella on Kindle Unlimited. I should have DNF'd. It was wild. It was a wide choose. There's Drakens. I don't even know what a Draken is. If you know, then you might like it. Yeah, that was a crazy book. The Soulmate was not my favorite by Sally Hepworth. This one, I remembered the plot twist. That was crazy. I remember it, but it wasn't my favorite. Summer I Turned Pretty, I should have DNF'd. I honestly, I just want to watch the show, and I tried reading it, but it was way too YA for me. The chapters were short, audiobook was good, but I'm not going to continue the series. I think I'm just going to watch the show. Crazy. I'm so sorry. After I Do, I really enjoyed this. I'm going to put it in mid. After reading some reviews, I think it tainted my image of the book, but I really liked the quotes in here and the dynamic of, you know, putting the commitment of a marriage and putting in the effort. I would recommend it because Taylor Jenkins Reid is just a queen. Secretly Yours, I'm gonna put not my favorite. I remember one of them, and the other one is Unfortunately Yours. Both of these were good. I think I liked Secretly Yours better, and I think it had to do with a winery. I could totally be wrong. Both of these were forgettable, short, cute reads by Tessa Bailey. I would recommend if you like spicy romances, but if you want something that has like huge emotional depth or yearning or slow a slow burn. I would not recommend these. Crown of Midnight, I loved. I don't think it's God tier. I'm also going to put Throne of Glass in here. I loved both of these ones. I gave them both 5 stars, so I am petrified of the rest of the series if I've already given these 2 5 stars. So excited to be in this world. I'm trying to take it slow because once it's over, I'll never be able to read it again for the first time. So yeah, I loved these. Definitely recommend. Icebreaker, I'm going to put in mid because there's a discussion of mental health and eating, and I felt like there was some good emotional depth. I think the spice was definitely a little crazy for sure. But that's not to say that it was a good book. Wildfire, I loved Wildfire. I liked the dynamic, I liked the depth of the characters, I liked the romance, you know, the forced proximity, love. I feel like Hannah Grace's characters really work on themselves before putting them into a relationship, and so yeah, I really loved both of these ones. This first one was mid, but I loved Wildfire and I loved Daydream. I would recommend Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I'm gonna put in Love. This one was fun. This one was exciting. I read the audiobook, so she had like a Chinese accent, which was it kind of just made me picture everything a little bit more. It's about a woman who owns a tea shop and she gets involved in a murder, trying to solve it, and you end up getting like found friends and found family, and you get answers. I didn't see the plot twist. Again, I read for vibes. I definitely want to continue the series. Hello Stranger, I'm going to put in not my favorite. This girl has facial blindness and she's a face portrait. I forget the guy's name, so yeah, not my favorite. I love Catherine Center's writing. I want to keep reading her backlist, but this one just wasn't for me. Yours truly loved this one. Are you freaking kidding me? Oh man, I love Jacob in this one. I loved the anxiety representation. It kind of felt like an episode of Grey's Anatomy. The epilogue, I remember making me cry. So yeah, I love this book, and this was my first Abby Jimenez book. And then I read Just for the Summer. I loved the premise for Just for the Summer. They both have curses, and they end up, the person who breaks up with them ends up to meet their person, so they date to break each other's curse. And again, I loved the representation of working on yourself first before being in a relationship. I loved both of these books. The Echo of Old Books is simply God tier. Hello? Yeah, it's simply God tier. This is by Barbara Davis. I read this on Kindle Unlimited and absolutely obsessed. I read this in January and I still think about this book and this character and the stories, and I've made my friends read it since then and they have loved it, so it just further solidifies my opinion for it. It's probably due for a reread here soon. It's about a woman. It's like magical realism, dual timeline, historical fiction with a subplot of romance. There's like love letters, so if you love Divine Rivals, I feel like you might like this one. Speaking of Divine Rivals, I did a reread and I love this one. I don't think it's God tier, but I loved my reread. So yes, we all know what Divine Rivals is. Ruthless Vows was not my favorite. I enjoyed being back with the characters, but some reason it was really heavy on the war and I didn't really care for it at that point. And I just remember being super slow and it took me forever to read this, so not my fave. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Okay, I'm gonna put in like not my fave. I read this as an audiobook and I really enjoyed like the mixed media aspect of this. I think she has like a podcast, you know, they're born on the same day, born at the same hospital, and this woman has like a weird connection to her. I still don't know what the fuck happened at the end of this book. Mother-Daughter Murder Night, I loved this book and I would definitely recommend it. This was her debut book, I'm pretty sure, and I think after reading about the author and the acknowledgements, I found more appreciation for the story, so I enjoyed that one and I would recommend if you kind of want a literary fiction with a subplot of mystery. The only one left, I am going to say I love this. I binged the first 80% in one sitting and I love the short chapters. It felt a little bit like Verity and that's all I will say. Definitely recommend. This is my first Riley Sager book and I'm eager and intrigued to pick up another book. So if you have a favorite, let me know in the comments down below. King of Wrath, I'm gonna put mid, and then I'm also gonna put King of Pride in mid. Both of these books are good, don't get me wrong. It was entertained. They're quick, short chapter, dual point of view, spicy millionaire romances. I know that I liked King of Pride more than King of Wrath, but looking back, they're just forgettable. The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer should have DNF'd. This book was so boring and I could not connect to the story. I could not root for the characters. The ending was cute and all, but I did not care, so I'm so sorry. Bad Blood, I guess I finished this. I loved this one. I would definitely recommend the Natural series. The way the previous book, The Way All In ends, is crazy, so I definitely took my time reading this and I loved my reading experience. The Year of Second Chances, I am going to put in loved. I, simply read for vibes. I would recommend this. The book was short and I thought it was a cute read. Her husband ends up passing away, but creates a dating profile for her and kind of just encourages her to find love after loss. And yeah, definitely recommend this one. It was a short, easy read. Again, take my opinions with a grain of salt. A Curse for True Love, I'm just going to put in not my favorite. So unfortunately we had like a loved Once Upon a Broken Heart, then we have a mid Ballad of Never After, and then a not my fave for A Curse for True Love. I just feel like this series kind of fell off for me. I'm glad I finished this series, but I don't know, not my fave. Off to the Races, I'm gonna put mid. I remember reading this and enjoying it, and I love being back in an Elsie Silver's universe. Speaking of, we're gonna put Wild Love in mid. The spice scenes I could not get behind. I loved everything else about it, but it just really knocked my reading and rating of Wild Love because of the spice scenes, and that's saying a lot because Elsie Silver's Chestnut Spring series has me in a chokehold. I don't know, I was a little disappointed, but Off to the Races was a good one. It was easy. You could definitely tell that it's like a debut book, and I am excited to continue this series as well as the Rose Hill series. The Unmaking of June Farrow, I'm going to say I should have DNF'd. I don't know, I was confused by the magic system. I wish there was a explanation on how it worked, and I feel like I just remember finally understanding a little bit at like 75%, but then like obviously like the action and climax happens and then like it was over. So honestly, I would not recommend this book. I was severely disappointed, and that sucks to say. Powerless is mid. I'm gonna say it. I am shocked that it has as much hype as it does. And then I'm gonna put Powerful in mid, and then I'm going to put Reckless in mid. I'm just gonna say this is a mid series for me. I don't absolutely obsess, eat it up, love it, but I don't absolutely hate it. It's entertaining for what it is. It's a YA fantasy series, and I'm very, very excited to read Fearless in 2025. The good part, I loved this book so much. I remember laughing out loud, and I ended up buying the physical copy of this off of Pango Books because I enjoyed it that much, and it's just hilarious. So if you want, it felt like a rom-com in the best kind of way. Love Light Farms, I'm gonna put in not my fave. It's a seasonal read. It's really hard to have a seasonal read be, I think, like God tier. So yeah, I would recommend, but I really don't remember much. I just remember she is trying to buy a Christmas farm, or she like lies, and then she has like basically reality TV come, and it's like fake dating, which I love, but then like, I don't know, it's a seasonal read. It's hard for it to be anything more than that. 19 Steps by Millie Bobby Brown and her ghostwriter, which she does acknowledge in the acknowledgements. I know that she got some hate on that, but I really, really enjoyed this. It broke my heart because it has a sense of reality. It's inspired by her grandmother's story in World War II, I'm pretty sure, and it was just the ending. I was fucking hyperventilating, crying. I loved this book, and I loved the audiobook as well because Millie Bobby Brown narrates it. Do I think it's like the best piece of literary fiction? No, but I definitely got connected to the characters, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, so I was pleasantly surprised. The Fury was not my fave. I remember liking the narrator slash perspective. Not my fave, definitely forgettable. Heartless Hunter. I loved this book, and I didn't realize how connected I was until I was crying at the end. So Rebel Witch needs to come ASAP because I need to know what happens. I really enjoyed this book, and I would definitely recommend it. Darling Girls, holy shit, I don't understand this book at all. I'm so sorry if I'm offending you right now. Books are subjective, and yeah, I don't know, it wasn't suspenseful at all. The ending I'm confused about. And yeah, I remember a little bit about it, but I'm like, how the fuck did we get there? And then the ending, I'm like, I don't know. The women, yeah, it's God tier. It's God tier. Like, Kristen Hanna knows how to write, and this one like broke me, and I felt so deeply for these characters because it's based on a true story. I mean, the same with The Nightingale, both of them are based on true stories, but it was just really heartbreaking and very inspiring, and I loved the found family, and gosh, I just love Frankie, and this seriously changed my perspective of reading. Definitely showed me that I love historical fiction, and I need to read more in the new year. Leather and Lurk, I'm gonna put it mid. I enjoyed it. I loved Butcher and Blackbird. This one was good. The spice obviously is spicy, but the ending, the climax was interesting, and I'm very eager to read Scythe and Sparrow or something like that, the third book in the series. I don't know if it's the final book, but I'm excited. Say You'll Be Mine, low-key very pleasantly surprised. This one was about, I think it had like Indian representation, which is something that I haven't really read before, and I loved the rom-com element of it, and I loved that the woman was career-driven and super smart. Forced Proximity, and yeah, I remember really loving this one. Fate Inked in Blood, I know some people hate this book. I don't know why. I ate this up so hard. I ate this up. I just remember the Forced Proximity. It's obviously like a high fantasy, and I'm really excited for the second book. I'm probably going to need like to read a spoiler review before reading the second one. I loved this one. I binged this. So good. Swift and Saddled, loved this one. I remember taking notes and buddy reading this with some people on Discord, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love Lila Sage, and I need to read Lost and Lassoed and then Wild and Wrangled because I just really enjoy all of her books, and the covers are obviously stunning. Dagger the Flame, I probably should have DNF'd this, which is really sad to say because it was just a little boring for me. It was a little long. Maybe it's a book at the wrong time. I would like to reread this because I feel like I missed a lot of it, and again, I think I was just in like a life slump, and reading something like that does not help. So yeah, this one was crazy. It was a Persephone retelling. This is, yeah, again, I remember I read this for a prompt for the seasonal challenge. This is Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Lyon. I feel like, and from the reviews, I'm so arrogant or ignorant, I'm not sure which one, but I didn't really know much about the retelling, so I was just like completely thrown off guard with this book. It felt like a lucid dream or a fever dream, and yeah, I definitely was confused 90% of the time, but apparently she did a pretty good job at the retelling. Okay, Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates and Long Way Home are just ironically all next to each other, and I am going to put them all in loved. Now, these are my 5 stars. I've given each one 5 stars, and I love the lyrical writing, but I don't think they're God tier for me. I love Jessa Hastings and her whole world that she created with these characters. I love the toxicity. Bride, I'm gonna put mid. It was good. I enjoyed it, and I don't really have much else to say. I had a good time reading it. Funny Story, oh my god, not my favorite. I remember I DNF'd this book because I could not get into the story, and then I tried picking it up again, and I was just so bored. I don't even remember the ending of this book. Yeah, I'm definitely disappointed by that. The husbands, I'm gonna put in mid. I remember liking the writing style. I remember being entertained. The wedding people, I'm gonna put in mid as well. This one is by Allison Esbach. This was our first book club book, and it does start off pretty heavy, so I would check trigger warnings. I thought it was overall a good book. I thought the banter in here was really funny between her and the bride in this. And I thought the ending, it couldn't really have ended any other way. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna put A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang in God tier because I can't stop thinking about this book and the way it ends. If you want a sad book, pick this up. I mean, can you tell that this one's sad, this one's sad, and this one's sad? Yeah, I love a book that makes me feel something. This seriously changed my brain chemistry and I loved it, and this one was a Chinese retelling, I'm pretty sure, so yeah, definitely am intrigued. The writing was so lyrical, so beautiful. I'm gonna put Want by Gillian Anderson in Loved. This one was so fascinating. It was a book basically by Broken, consisted of thousands and thousands of anonymous letters written in by women across the world. My battery died, that was rude. Anyways, Want right here, I really enjoyed it. I found it fascinating. I would definitely recommend to anyone who finds the synopsis really interesting. A Murder to Remember was just not my fave. I remember this being a, hello, where'd it go? Oh, right there. I remember it being a short audiobook. I finished this in one long car ride. It kept me entertained, but it just was very forgettable. And I mean, I remember everything about it, but yeah, I don't know. This one was free with my Audible subscription. Phantasma, let's see. I'm going to put in mid. I'm going to put in mid because I thought it was a good book. It was entertaining. I was interested in the trials, but I just felt like I couldn't really connect to the romance. It started too soon. I remember like them being together at the 40% mark, and I just wish it like would have, you know, had been like a little bit more of a slow burn. I really enjoyed the ending. I wish there was more to their ending, but we don't get that anymore. Hopefully we get to see them in the next book in the series. Ember in the Ashes, loved this one. Pleasantly surprised. I'm currently reading A Torch Against the Night, which is the second book in the series. This one was super entertaining, fast-paced, dual point of view, high stakes, and yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. This was my first Saba Tahir book, and I am really, really excited to continue the series and her backlist for sure. My December Darling was not my favorite, and All by My Elf was not my favorite, and Merry Ever After was not my favorite. So not really ending on a good note. These were all just easy holiday reads. These ones were super fast-paced, super short. My December Darling had a little bit more depth, a little bit more to the story, whereas I think these are like 60, 70 pages max. So yeah, this is my tier ranking. I think this is good. We had some solid like 6-star reads for me. We had a good section of loved. We have a little mid, you know, a good amount of the lower half, but I think that it shows that I don't really give out many high star ratings. I feel good about this tier ranking. We are going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. Like I said earlier, it really means a lot. I'm excited to see what 2025 has for us. And let me know if you have done a tier ranking video. I would love to check out your channel and get some new YouTubers on my subscription feed. And this was a long one. Thanks for checking in and making it. If you've made it this far, leave the pink bow emoji for my coffee cup. And I hope to see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!